Hello, my name is Kyle Adams, and this is my Threshold Concept presentation 1.2, Writing Invokes and or Creates Audiences by Andrea Lunsford. This focuses on the rhetorical triangle in the beginning, and of course the rhetorical triangle is the relation between the writer, the speaker, the audience, the receiver, the listener, and the text or message that's being communicated. All of these three things are connected to determine meaning. Walter Ong, in The Writer's Audience is Always Fiction, identified a difference between audiences in writing and speaking. In speeches like the one depicted in the picture, audiences are immediately present, but in writing, they are absent and removed. Therefore, in writing, writers need to fictionalize their audiences, and audiences need to adopt that role that the writers set out for them. This is very important for the audience to adopt this role in order for the text to have the intended meaning in the absence of face-to-face contact. So, how do writers address their audiences? Well, they imagine them and they invoke their audience. And in this case, building on Ong's theory, scholars in rhetoric and writing have discussed how authors often call up imagined audiences as they write. So, for instance, as I'm creating this presentation, I am trying to imagine my audience. So, my primary audience in this case is Dr. Tully. And as I know she will be viewing and grading my presentation, I'm focusing on her. But I'm also considering my fellow classmates who might also view this presentation, and because I've actually never met them face to face, it's difficult for me to invoke them as I write. So in my mind, they're present as a secondary audience, but I'm still thinking primarily of Dr. Tully as my main audience for this presentation. So considering audience in the digital age now is a little bit different. Writers and audiences are interacting more in online spaces. In other words, there's more collaboration between audiences and writers, and therefore they both have more agency. The boundaries between writer and author are more blurred than ever before. Because of the collaborative and social nature of digital literacy, audiences and writers have more agency. This also makes the bond between writer and audience less stable, but more prone to actually create new and unintended audiences. Maybe even accidentally going viral, to use a digital cliche. A perfect example of this is the Humans of New York phenomenon. This was started back in 2010, and it was originally a project that was going to photograph and just basically collect 10,000 pictures of people throughout the city of New York, but eventually it blossomed into not only taking pictures of these people, but also interviewing them with the picture to get a better story and to humanize them. But little did the author of Humans of New York intend, probably, that this would spread out throughout the world. It was so popular. It had over 18 million fans on Facebook eventually, that it would branch off to Humans of Philadelphia. It would branch off to Humans of Finley. And all the while, all of these separate projects, but related projects to Humans of New York, would credit Humans of New York for the inspiration for their pages on Facebook. And these pages would have thousands of followers, and all of these pages would interview their subjects and the pictures that they took and share them and allow people to see the human side of people from all around the world, all around the United States and all around the world, as I should say, because you can see here, Humans of Tehran and Iran. It's also inspired by Humans of New York. So how could the original author of Humans of New York ever have imagined that he would have created this type of an audience, and his audience would eventually in turn create themselves and become writers and just spread the way that it did. It's a perfect example of how writing can be shared in online spaces, and how they can quickly morph into writers' audiences almost instantaneously in online spaces. So obviously, focusing on audience is very important. In the digital age, the rhetorical triangle has changed. The lines between the writer and the audience and the text have become a little bit more blurred. So as a teacher, we need to focus on this with students. They need to be taught at an early age the power of their agency as both audience and writer in online spaces. They need to imagine audiences online and how critical that is. One wrong post for students, maybe young in their career or maybe in their academic career, can easily ruin things for them who aren't careful because of a mistake of not imagining their potential audiences online. So they need to pay close attention on who might be viewing or who might be reading what they are posting and putting out into the digital world. There's also more of a responsibility for writers in online spaces to think more about their current potential and even unintended audiences than ever before, because it is harder than ever to imagine what that audience could be. But that thought needs to be put into the process of writing, especially in online spaces, to be sure that all audiences can be reached, hopefully, for the intended purpose.